to you live from my Twitch stream. I've got chat over here with me. We're going to be responding to your Dead by Daylight hot takes. This was one of the most popular things that I did whenever I was making content on the daily. So I asked you guys a little bit ago if you wanted to do a hot takes video first, or if you wanted to see a tier list. And it's a good thing you guys wanted to see the hot takes video first, because the tier list is taking way longer than I expected it to. Like exceedingly longer, because I'm actually trying to make like a constructive breakdown of each of the killers when I make my tier list. Yeah, I don't know how Otts does it. I'm gonna be real with you. Anyway, we're gonna start off our beautiful little thing. I've got the song that we're listening to in the top right, if you're wondering about the kind of stuff we play here on stream. It's just lo-fi stuff today, but hey, tomorrow it could be country, rock, pop, whatever. But the point is, if you want to be a part of this stream, then please make sure you head down to the description, click on that Twitch link, and if you're at least 18 years of age or older, and come hang out with us. We'd love to have you. Anyway, so as I announced when I did this, from now on, when I do these community-driven videos, which is where I post a community post, ask you guys to give me answers, then I respond to your answers, all channel members will get priority. So if you're a channel member, you will be one of the first ones that I read, so you don't have to wait till the middle of the video to see my response to your stuff. So right now we only have one channel member that responded to our post, and it is from Jonathan, and I will not even attempt to pronounce the rest of your name, homie, but thank you so much for your tier 2 sub. I appreciate that. It says Legion add-ons are stupid, and the Legion is the most annoying killer no matter how weak they are. I do agree with the second part, that the Legion is the most annoying killer, the most boring killer in the game. I hate going against Legion. It fucking frustrates me. Playing the Legion is fun. Going against the Legion, absolute crap. As for the add-ons being stupid, I don't agree. I think the add-ons are actually pretty cool. I think Best Friends Forever is pretty cool. I think that the Eerie button is pretty sick. I think Legion's got some pretty interesting add-ons. Like, I think out of all the add-ons in the game, Legion has like some of the best like most creative designed add-ons. So that's just me. All right, now that we've responded to the channel members, let's see if we can... Oh, I can filter it over here. All right, so we're gonna go to newest, and then we're gonna go all the way down. First come, first serve, and we're gonna respond from the top. Now remember, I'm not gonna be reading off the replies, I'm just reading the original takes, so... The Gold God says, indoor maps are really good addition to the game, and we frankly need more of them. I don't think that indoor maps are necessarily good, because, okay, here's the thing. I don't think indoor maps are inherently a bad idea. I just think that behavior has the incapability to design a well-designed indoor map, right? Because so many indoor maps are so fucking reliant on god palettes or god windows, right? Leary's got a shitload of god windows, Gideon's has a shitload of god palettes. And if they don't do either of those, they essentially make the whole building one big god loop, like they did with RPD, right? So I don't think that the idea of indoor maps is inherently bad. I just think that behavior is really bad at designing them. Like, for some reason, they just can't seem to design indoor maps that aren't just complete crap. You know what I mean? Yeah, exactly, Magic. Mid bitch is one big loop too. It's just a very bad loop. Spider-Man Games says DBD makes more sense as a free-to-play with all the DLC and in-game purchases that is needed, and more people would play. I agree. I think that until the cost of cosmetics comes down, DBD being pay-to-play doesn't make any sense. I think that if you're gonna make DBD pay-to-play, you need to bring the cost of the cosmetics down to like I'm talking like $8 for a legendary. Like, people are already paying $20 for the base game, and then $5 a fucking or $10 a DLC chapter. Like, it's time to bring those cosmetic prices down. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. Sorry about that, chat. I'm back. Anyway, Star Raising, who's in the chat with us right now, says RPD West Wing is my favorite map in the game. Certifiably fucking insane. Actually getting to play around the cramped halls instead of having the whole game hover around the central zone leads to such unique kinds of chases and tensions that even other indoor maps like Treatment Theater can't quite replicate. East Wing can go suck a fart out of my ass though. Just before you go thinking I'm insane, too late for that one. Don't worry, my least favorite map is bad in preschool like a normal person. Well, I'm glad that's true. Can I be real with you guys? I've been playing this game for over 2,000 hours. I still can't remember the difference between East and West Wing. All I know is I see RPD and I immediately want to kill myself. Like that's just straight up, right then and there. Dova says, people say Trickster doesn't have counterplay. Yes, he absolutely does. It's called Breaking Line of Sight and Tall Tiles. You are correct. Nothing to say there. We responded to Jonathan at the beginning. Treza says Pyramid Head becomes stronger and higher in tier lists as survivors have more access to hook-related perks and hooking becomes less optimal for killers. He's already a top 10, in my opinion, after Shoulder the Burden was added. He's hard anti-meta for... Yes, you are absolutely correct. Pyramid Head, a lot of Pyramid Head's tier comes from the fact that his cages deny so many perks within the game. Like, absolutely insane. Dimgar says, my biggest hot take is that DBD needs not only a few months of content break for bug fixing and game health, it needs to be rebuilt from the ground up. This is a game made as a party game, hide and seek simulator, which over the years has turned into a very competitive style with balance changes on par with games and comp queues, yet it's built on the base of a game made by the devs who had time barely. Yeah, no, this is mostly true. It's not that it was a party game and that's the problem, it's that it was an indie game. And that's the problem. It doesn't have a lot of foundation because it was made as an indie game the devs thought was going to die off very quickly. And instead it's just grown into this monster of a game that they never expected to happen. Big Unts says, Cannibal is easily the most brain dead killer to use, as in like you don't even need to be good or experienced to get decent results with him. His power is really basic. So his power is basic, but if you're not good or experienced, you're gonna fail with Cannibal like 110%. Like you are gonna fucking lose, bro. Bubba is an M1 killer. And I know that's weird to say because, you know, he's got the, you know, the chainsaw, like obviously he has his M2 power. But Bubba is an M1 killer at heart. Like he has to be sniffing your asshole to down you. And if survivors have even a mitochondriac of a brain cell or a basic understanding of looping, they will fuck a Bubba up. Even with his buffs, he is like middle of C tier at best. And at worst, he's like D tier. Like he is shit, like dog shit. If you find yourself losing to a Bubba, it's because you're treating him like he's a hillbilly and not like he's a trapper. If you treat him like he's a trapper, you're gonna win most of the time. He's not brain dead. The most brain dead killer in this game, probably honestly, it's Legion. If I'm being real with you. Yeah, I would say Legion's probably the most brain dead killer in this game. Connor Weeb says DBD needs a health patch as currently mid-chapter patches feel empty at times and can be used as time to improve the core of the game instead of just tweaking stuff to distract us until the next big thing comes along. Yeah, a health patch is, people have been on this, I've been on this, a health patch is needed, but it's not just a mid-chapter patch. It needs, like a full chapter needs to be dedicated to fixing the game, but I don't think we can fix the game at that point. I've got a video coming out. Oh, I haven't recorded it yet. So there's a video that's going to be coming out around the time this video releases with the other batch of videos I've got in the queue. That's basically like, I don't think behavior can fix Dead by Daylight. I don't think it's possible. I think they need to rebuild the bitch. Yonkers number one Glazer says Otz isn't the god of DBD. He shouldn't be talked about like the second coming of Christ. You know what's funny about this take? Otz agrees with you. The most hilarious, I learned this when I did a video back in the day, where I was talking about how people are like overtly attached to Otz's opinion and use Otz as like proof of their opinion being correct instead of like forming their own. And Otz himself told me that I had a good point, and he actually fucking hates it when people like treat him as if he's like this almighty, like, because like the thing is that there's two camps and Otz can't stand both of them, right? The first camp is people who do not form their own opinion and treat Otz as if he is the end all be all of everything. And the second camp is people who think that Otz has so much influence over the game that he can just change things with one video. And he hates both of those things so much. Because, like, if you watch Otz, he's just a dude. He's just a chill dude who talks about the video game. But people act like every video he makes, he's like preaching a sermon or some shit. And that's just not what he is. So the funny thing about your take is that Otz agrees with you. He wishes people would stop doing it too. Yeah, exactly, Psycho. The Glitched P says, Singularity is in a fine place. The only problem people seem to have with him is that he is a 1v4 killer, not a 1v1. You cannot beat a Singularity alone. He will shred your resources very quickly if you do not use EMPs mid-chase, which is where the problem of solo queue arises. His slugging capacity is strong, but let's be honest, slugging is just popular on killer these days. Only thing I'd change is rework the blindness add-on so that it's less useful in that situation. If you play it right with positioning, select use of EMPs, you can absolutely do great against him. I mean, yeah. Are there people saying that he's too strong? What did I miss in the last 2 months? Because last I saw, most people were pretty happy with his rework. Also, Meowskevich says, Nemesis zombies are not bad. That's just factually incorrect. That's just factually incorrect. They're fucking terrible. They are one of the worst. If we were judging killers based solely off of like their particular, sorry, not killers. If we were to just take powers and just judge powers, zombies would be one of the worst powers in this game. Zombies are one of the worst powers in this game. They're fucking dog. Zombies matter so little that most Nemesis players or most Nemesis games, you don't even realize the zombies are in the fucking game until they're fucking something up, until they're body blocking you for no reason, or they get stuck in a random ass staircase, or they are so worthless that people don't even notice they are there half the time. They need a massive overhaul, and soon. Cthulhu, not really a hot take. Well, then why are you fucking putting it? I'm kidding. But they need to bring back having more unique add-ons that completely change the gameplay style of the killer. A lot more unique. Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with that. Odin plays games. Window of opportunity is OP. No, it isn't. Okay, then. Just adding more zombies wouldn't change anything, Dimgar. Just adding more zombies would not change jack-a-diddly dog shit. The problem with zombies is that their AI is crap. They could keep 2 zombies, but they need to give the zombies something. They need to give them something else. I always said that being infected should put off a pheromone to make the zombies faster when targeting somebody who's infected. Yeah. Anyway, Melon Plays says, Billy is better than Blight in a comp setting because you are not getting indoor maps as much, but in a public setting, Blight is better. Yeah. Yeah, I think I could agree with that. I think I could agree with that. Sure. Kit Katesums. People giving up on Hook DCing will always be a thing, and it's not something new, people. People give up happens in every PvP game. Not to this extent. Not to this extent. The reason it's such a big problem in DBD, and the reason we're talking about the Go Next epidemic and stuff, is because DBD is the only game where it happens to this extremity, and this often, right? It's the only one where it happens this often. In other games, like if I'm playing Overwatch, I might get somebody who gives up randomly 1 out of every like 30 games, right? 40 games. In Apex, it's the same thing, right? People, you know, in most games, you are not seeing people give up this often. In Dead by Daylight, one night in a 3-hour play session, I had somebody give up every single game without fail. It happens so much, it is ridiculous. You don't think there's a way to make giving up on hook issue go away until the penalty is gone? I do. Take the ability to attempt the 4% out of the game. Take the ability to 4% out of the game. It doesn't need to be there. Unless you bring, you know, slippery meat or you know, deliverance or something like that. It just does not need to be in the game anymore. People should not, if the killer cannot just bypass the DC penalty, survivors shouldn't be able to do it either. And also, while we're at it, change the struggle mechanic to where it's no longer hitting skill checks. Sorry, we need to take the ability away from survivors to abandon their teammates the way they do. CJ Lapey Rose. Oh, also going back for just a moment. Another thing that we can do is to stop normalizing the idea of just going next when you're not having a good time. We should normalize the idea of playing a different fucking game when you're not having a good time, instead of rage queuing back to 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 back. Like this community is the only community I've ever come across that normalizes the idea of fucking your teammates over and ruining the game for 4 other people. Like, it's the only community who will actively argue that it is okay for you to fuck the experience of the other people in the lobby. And I know that whole shit, oh, well, my fun isn't your fun isn't my responsibility, but to an extent it is. Like, I don't know how to explain to you, you should care about other people. Like, go play single player games if this game is pissing you off that much. I'm so sick of us normalizing giving up when you're not having a good time. Anyway, CJ Lapey Rose says, in the current state of the game, slugging is stronger than hooking. Yes. Smoky Hellfire, Dracula is the second most boring killer in DBD after Houndmaster. I don't think any of those killers even come close to the most boring killers in DBD. I don't think either of those are, I don't think either of those are in the top 10 most boring. Holy crap, what are you talking about, brother? Yoshi Gaming 2 Shorts, that's a name. Pig is A+ tier. People just can't be bothered to take the time to learn all the mechanics of her kit because it's slightly harder to get value from than someone like Blight or Chucky. So I'm going to say something that'll probably hurt your feelings, but character is secretly really strong, you just don't know how to use it, has never been a correct take in the history of ever. Pig is a dog shit killer because everything about her kit is dog shit. Everything about Pig's kit is shit. Her ambush is shit, her head traps are shit, and in order to even get use out of her shit head traps, you have to master the shit ambush. The problem isn't people don't know how to use her, quote unquote. The problem is that once you learn how to use her, the value of the time you put into the killer is not valuable enough, right? It's like Trapper. It doesn't matter how many hours you have in Trapper, how much of an expert you are in Trapper, Trapper's never gonna be above F tier as long as he continues to not spawn with his traps and not have trap refresh. I don't give a fuck how well you know the character's kit isn't good enough to matter. And when people like me or Otts or Scott or Hens or literally anybody else tells you that a character is bad, it's because we're looking at the objective max value that the character can provide. And Pig just doesn't provide that much value. It's not about whether or not you can even get value from the character. It's the fact that the amount of value the character gives you is not enough to matter. Like, okay, anyway. MSG Godot, Ghostface is fine and doesn't need changes. Meanwhile, Ghostface is a bottom tier killer with no chase power, slowdown, or mobility. His power is countered by basic communication and pre-running. I have no idea why so many content creators say he's in a fine spot and then put him in D tier in a single breath. I don't know anybody who thinks that, Ghostface is in a fine spot is either extremely biased to Ghostface themselves, or does not want the killer to be stronger because of whatever reason. And this is something I've noticed. I've noticed that Ghostface mains in particular, for some reason, believe the character is like higher tier than he really is, but he's just not. Very similar to Pig, Ghostface's kit doesn't provide enough. Because at the end of the day, what is Ghostface really? He's an M1 killer with an insta-down and more consistent stealth than Myers. Ghostface is almost as bad as Legion. He's worse than Legion. Ghostface is worse than Legion. I truly believe that Ghostface, ever since Freddy got his buff, I think Ghostface might just be the third worst killer in the game. Like, Ghostface is so awful because, like, no other killer in the game can just be yoinked out of their power by being perceived. And perceived from across the map at that. Like, it's bad. It is really bad. If you play as Ghostface, most of the time you will find yourself being yoinked out of your power from the most obnoxious angles. And Ghostface is just, his kit just isn't good enough. And we're at a point now where after the buffs, Myers is better than Ghostface. And that's sad. That is really sad. Because even though Ghostface has more consistent, stealth than Myers, Myers' insta-down is more consistent because Myers, you can't just stop Myers' insta-down from happening by seeing him out of the corner of your screen. Like, you can't do that to Myers. And what makes Myers better after the buffs is Myers can stalk you from across the map and get his insta-down ready. And everybody on the map is insta-downable, not just one person that you happen to be looking at. So Ghostface at this point, I genuinely believe, and this might piss people off, I genuinely believe Ghostface is the third worst killer in the game right now. After the Myers and Freddy buffs, he has fallen hard into the number 3 spot as terms of worst killers. He needs so much help. Timmy Dawtooth says Nemesis should be a top tier killer with add-ons of serotonin injector and hex plaything. He becomes virtually undetectable and strong. I will say this again. If a killer needs perks and add-ons to be strong, that killer is not strong. Reliancy on add-ons and perks weakens a killer's tier. If we brought add-ons in the equation, Myers would be A+ tier. The Ice Nova 6206 says survivors should have things that differentiate them from one another, because the fact that you're basically paying for a skin with extra perks for the same price that you're paying for a killer with a power, 20 add-ons, and 3 new perks as well is crazy. They can maybe add a class system a bit. Please do not. Please do not. I agree that survivors should be cheaper than killers. I think so. Killers are, all characters are $5, right? 500 Auric cells. I think survivors should be like 200 Auric cells, and licensed survivors should be 300 Auric cells. I've been trying to figure out for a while if there should be something to differentiate the survivors, like maybe different hitboxes, and like you could compensate with the different, because they already all have different noise levels, so you can make it to where bigger survivors are quieter but smaller survivors are louder or something like that. But I don't know if that would be a good idea. It would be interesting to think about, but I don't know it'd be a good idea. It's something to really like dive into, and it's something that requires its own video to discuss. So I might have to come back to you on this, but I do agree that as of right now, survivors should be cheaper than killers. Spitfire 5316 says if you body block as soon as you get unhooked, it doesn't count as tunneling because you put yourself in the killer's way. Correct. Gehem Canal says totem should be blocked until the first gen is done. This gives hex perks more defense, and it serves an option. 1, split gens and risk that the killer is getting more value of his perks. 2, group 1 gen. No, I don't agree with that. I think that totems should not light until they produce value. So Devour Hope should not light until it gains a stack. Lullaby should not light until somebody hits a skill check or the skill check sound shows up. You know, things like that. Crowd control shouldn't light until somebody vaults a window. Stuff like that. That's what should happen to hex perks. They should not light until value is gotten from them. Poker Face's Lull says stealth is a great playstyle as Survivor as long as it's a chase stealth build. What the fuck is a chase stealth build? You're gonna have to explain that one to me, buddy. How about maybe, which I think is in the chat today? I'm not sure. This game is predatory to new players in its monetization. It has the monetization of a free-to-play game while you having to pay to buy it. I agree. I agree. Luna says, glad you're back and feeling okay. Thank you, Luna. I'm glad to be back. Thank you for liking me being back. I appreciate that. Huxley, EMP shouldn't exist. Wonder if there's a reason for that there, Lux. There a reason you think that? Just a small one? A small bodily dimorphized one? Link Ross 9279. Note, this was written before the developer changes from the PTB came out. This hot take is now pretty outdated, but it will stay here because I think that how I felt at the time was still appropriate to the situation. I still have a few grudges against the new Freddy rework, but not as many as I used to have. I will tell you what, because it is outdated, I will allow chat to read this themselves while I take a big drink of water. Fluffle Bunny says, the comp scene and players ruin the game for everyone else. Miserable game experience all around now. I don't agree. I don't agree. Nothing within the competitive scene really affects the main game all that much. Because the competitive scene it might as well just be a different game. They ban all the stuff that's problematic. Oh, motherfucker, I didn't mean to do that. Shit! I fucked everything up! Hold on. The whole thing with the comp scene is that they ban everything that's problematic. They kind of bustle around. I think, honestly, if we were to say anybody has influence on the game, it would more be content creators, but I don't think that comp players really have that much on the game. The comp players still play pubs, and when they do, they're the ones being the most toxic. Yeah, but I mean, at this point, there's not as much toxicity as I see in DBD. I don't think it's mostly comp players. I just think comp players tend to be the loudest because they all want to be noticed, because that's why they play competitive. But nah, I don't know if I fully agree. I'd have to give it like a lot more thought. It's your Valentine. My Valentine? For me? My Valentine? Harpy Lady Feather Duster? All right, let's see. Saying the game is swift-sided is not objectively correct. That's okay. But it is the same thing as saying survivor-sided, as swifts are part of the survivor role. Killers may be pub stompers. That's only because the survivors are either making mistakes, giving up, or simply not coordinated. In a match of equal skill, the survivors have the upper hand in every circumstance. I don't like this. I don't like the idea of saying the game is either sided, killer sided, survivor sided, because it's always saying your last sentence, in a match of equal skill, blah, blah, blah has the upper hand in every circumstance. That's just not true. And I hate to bring them up, but if you look at the competitive scene, you get people who are of equal skill all the time. And if it was one side over the other that was stronger, then we would see one side winning every single competitive match. But we don't. We see some matches where the killer gets 12 hook states and a 4K, and we see some matches where survivors complete 5 gens with only 2 hooks being in play. This game is not tilted toward either side. I just think that too many people have me and Puffalope, I think it was me and Puffalope. Too many people, we were talking about this in my interview series. Too many people have the inability to admit that they suck at this game. Too many people have the inability to admit that they're ass at the video game. And so they will look for any excuse to ignore their own misplays, their own bad plays. They will try to blame everything else for why they're on a losing streak instead of just admitting that they might just be dog shit. So I don't think this game tilts toward either side. I just think that too many people can't admit to themselves that they're bad at the video game. The Phantom Safety Pin says, Return of the King. Return of you beautiful bastard. Says, my hot take, stealth is not as weak as we think, and the amount of people who A, give up against stealth killers, B, have defended, I can't fucking read, holy shit. Old distortion as okay proves this. Does anybody say that stealth is weak? I don't think I've heard people say stealth is weak. Stealth is often counted as a positive. This is one of those ones where I have not heard the other side of the argument, so I can't really, I mean, I'm just saying I've never heard anybody say stealth is weak, so you might have to elaborate on that. Afton8783, Old Skull Merchant, not Grandmaster, but the one after it was fair. I agree, and I dare say fun to go against. I agree, disagree. The old aspect of her drone lines being always visible did wonders for her atmosphere and was, in my opinion, unique and also maybe blah, 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 blah. But yeah. No, I'm with you, man. I'm with you on that. I think that the guillotine of Skull Merchant was the result of people who couldn't let Skull Merchant 1.0 go and couldn't understand that that's not what she was anymore. And that's just, unfortunately, when the worst people scream the loudest, they often get what they want. And that's where we're at. Desi UV says, Trickster is by far the most boring killer to versus and nothing else comes close. Explanation. I love how you put your explanation with the word explanation before it. Like you're writing a script. I really appreciate that, honestly. He is so incredibly boring to play against since he can camp very effectively and there just isn't any counterplay, so it feels completely hopeless as a survivor. I would argue there are 4, maybe 5 killers who can camp better than Trickster. Huntress, Billy, Bubba, Oni. Myers. No, I don't think Myers' camping power is better than Trickster's. Eerie Coin Slinger is pretty good, but I don't think it's better than Trickster's. When I'm thinking better than Trickster, I'm thinking about killers who can like down multiple survivors rapidly, right? So we're talking and ignore the they. So we're talking about Billy, we're talking about Huntress, we're talking about Oni, talking about Bubba. I think Bubba's the best camper in the fucking game. Like, nobody camps a hook better than Bubba does. There's a reason the meme came about. That might as well be considered a Bubba playstyle, is to camp a hook. He's so good at it. So, it's interesting you bring that up as a point. And there is counterplay. Dodge the knives. Duck and weave, break line of sight. Figure it out. On some maps without high walls and such, you can't do anything if you're caught out of position. Don't be out of position. You'll just get downed instantly. You will not get downed instantly. Additionally, nearly all Trickster players hard tunnel because it's so efficient. I mean, it's efficient on basically every killer. All they do is when the unhook comes through, they pop main event and it's GG. Not true. Freakishly boring DC when you see a Trickster, and maybe people will stop playing him. That last sentence is some bitch behavior. I'm not gonna lie to you. DCing just because it's a killer you don't like going against is just bitch behavior. I will never, ever back down from that. I'm so sick of people thinking that if they DC enough, it'll do anything. or it'll be healthy for the game. It just really isn't. Look what they did to Skull Merchant because people kept doing that shit. Now the character is basically worthless, and if you think that's a good thing, then you just have no empathy for other people's fun. A lot of this, I'm gonna be completely real with you, Desi, is a skill issue. A lot of this is just you throwing your hands up and going, there's just nothing I can do against the Trickster, gotta be boring, and not even bothering to understand how the character works or what you can do better. Just wholly honest with you, this is just one big skill issue, and that last sentence is just some really bitch behavior. I'm not gonna lie to you. Anyway, down below Scares 9609 says DBD should not have maps where people immediately just want to give up whenever they spawn into them. I agree, but that's a player issue, not a behavior issue. I will admit some of the maps you mentioned, Gideon's, Larry's, Badham, etc., are dog shit, and sometimes when I'm having a bad night, I will just check out. Like if I'm playing an M1 killer and I've been having a bad night and I get Badham Preschool, I just completely stop giving a shit. Like absolutely 110%. I do not care anymore. So yeah, I agree with you, but that's a player issue. That's not a behavior issue. Should they change it? Should behavior improve the maps? 100%. But at the end of the day, the player chooses to give up. Behavior does not force their hand. RJ7 says they should remove hook Kobe attempts. Yes. Yes. This Go Next epidemic is ridiculous. Yes. Either that or give 2 free hook escape attempts without losing any duration off the timer. Oh, I like that. I like that. You get 2 free attempts. There's no risk to it. And it gets rid of, I like that actually. I'm down, as long as it stays 4%. I'm down for that idea. I'm down for it. I agree. Desi, you already left one, so I'm gonna remove this, okay? Okay. Equinox Alchemist says boon perks should be entirely reworked. I don't think so. How boons work right now is kind of inefficient for Survivor side because they have a limited distance. There's a reason for that. I know it sounds massively overpowered, but having the boons reworked to be more like how hex perks would be great. No, it would not. Make it so that when you enter the trial with a hex perk equipped, you can find a totem and bless it. That's not a good idea. You do not want that. You do not want that. Oh, you meant with a boon perk. I think you put hex perk by accident. Yeah, no, that's not a good idea. That's not a good idea at all. That's not a good idea at all, man. Dude, you bring Dark Theory, the entire map has 2% haste. All survivors, all of them. You Boon Circle of Healing, everybody on the map just heals 1 billion times faster. No, dude, no. This is a bad idea. Bad idea. Boons are fine. Boons are fine as they are. They're perfectly fine. Leave them alone. Please do not. Sable, Unknown did not need to get touched at all. I agree. iCalves, hot take. Vecna is one of the most well-designed killers, top 5. But I feel like sometimes the counterplay holds Survivor's hand sometimes. Certain abilities can maybe use minor tweaks so he isn't as easy to counter. I agree. I think that Vecna is I've been saying this since Vecna's release. Vecna is definitely one of the most well-designed killers in the game. My only complaint is that he doesn't spawn in with Fly or Orb. I think both of those being on cooldown when he spawns in is stupid. Spy Dude says the night is fun. I agree. I like the night, especially after the rework. Clom Long says DBD is survivor-sided. No, it's not. If the survivor does the objective rather than DCing, hiding, throwing, I guess you could say Swift-sided, but who gives up is a large reason why solo queue is unplayable in my option. DBD is not either-sided. I do not agree. There's an argument going on here. I'm not reading all that. Blekis, so here's mine. The 8 Jaden damage limit was a bad change and only put in place because of Chess Merchant, and now that version of her no longer exists, it should be removed. If certain killers were good at holding a 3-gen, then those killers should have their kits changed so they can't 3-gen. This change was massive nerf to all killers that rely on kicking gen, i.e. M1 killers. I'm gonna blow your mind here. Most M1 killers should not be kicking gens. Most M1 killers don't have the time to kick gens. Like, if I see you kicking gens on Trapper, you better have a full gen kicking build. Because otherwise, I'm gonna scream at you for wasting your time. Like, most M1 killers shouldn't be kicking gens in the slightest. In fact, kicking gens is probably one of the least productive things you can do, unless that gen is at like 1,000,000,000%, right? Like, unless it's at like 70% or higher, kicking a generator is a waste of your time, unless you have perks to go with it. So I think the 8 gen damage limit was fine. I think it's perfectly okay. I said I wasn't going to read the replies, but my eyes drifted here. Eric is right. If you kick a gen more than 8 times, you've already lost and you're only stalling. You're not committing to chases. You're not attempting to confirm downs or kills. If you are trying to damage a generator more than 8 times, you have pretty much already lost that gen, right? Not necessarily the match, but you've lost that generator. And also, it wasn't made to change Chess Merchant. Chess Merchant had already been reworked by the time that gen kicking limit came across. I think behavior was just kind of tired of making a killer, finding out that killer was good at holding 3 gens, and then having everybody yell at them to change the killer. Moses, Windows of Opportunity and Lyth combo is plaguing the game. I don't agree. I don't agree at all. I don't see that combo like nearly as often as like any other. I see anti-tunnel perks more than I see Windows of Opportunity Lyth. Like, I'm running into DS, Off the Record, Shoulder the Burden, fucking, I'm running into BGP, Flashbang. I'm running into all of that more than Windows of Opportunity and Lyth. I don't like, I don't know where you got that idea. It's a crutch for bad loopers. Okay. I am going to say this, and this could be my personal hot take for the video. There is no such fucking thing as a crutch when it comes to perks when you say it's a crutch for bad players. Because at the end of the day, the power of 99% of perks is based upon the user not fucking it up, right? If you Windows of Opportunity Lyth and you Lyth in the wrong direction, you're taking the hit anyway. I cannot explain to you the number of times I have used Lyth as myself as Survivor, and I did it at a dumb time, and I just got fucking rolled because I was stupid. Or I made like no distance because of it. Like, at the end of the day, yes, there are perks that are stronger than others, but if the person using the perks is truly bad at the game, it does not fucking matter. It does not matter what perk they're using, right? Lyth Brain Rot is a thing, 100%, Ruby, 100%. Lyth Brain Rot is a huge problem in this community, where people will just Lyth and then take a hit anyway because they're not thinking about what they're doing. So I genuinely believe that outside of very specific things like Made for This, or Old Background Player, or the For the People Buckle Up combo, the Fuckle Up combo, or on Killer, the Call, or the Eruption Overbrine meta. Like, outside of very, very, very specific overpowered circumstances, I don't believe crutch perks actually exist. Subwoofer Vertex says, Hex Devour Hope is a balanced perk. I agree. Yes, the effect is very strong, and yes, I can flip the entire match upside down, but at the end of the day, it is still a Hex perk, and most of the totem spawns in this game are god-awful. I guess Devour is only powerful depending on the type of person you are, and the type of people you're with. Also unrelated, but I do have to ask, if you ever do open your own bookstore, will there be manga? Yes. Yes, there will. The Vice King, oh, also I agree with your take. The Vice King says, DBD would be a way better game if we separated Swift lobbies. No, it wouldn't. No, it fucking wouldn't. No. So when I first met Hins, I had responded to his video talking about the MMR problem. And one of the things that Hin said in the video was that he would rather the MMR be more accurate and him have longer queue times than what we were dealing with. And I argued that I don't think he would actually want that as much as he thinks he would, because longer queue times, which is exactly what this would cause, by the way, are a detriment to live service games. Like, think about the 2v8 period where killer queue times were like half an hour. People hated that shit. Some people, like me, outright refused to play the game while that was happening. Do you understand how bad the queue times would be if you separated Swift and solo queue lobbies? Holy shit. Also, 4 people with comms versus 1 singular person is not fair in the slightest. It isn't an asymmetrical game. If this was Overwatch and you were talking about 4 DPS against a tank, sure. Maybe you'd have a point. But in an asymmetrical game, you as the killer are on equal footing with the 4 survivors as a unit. That's why you have powers and add-ons and survivors don't. Jesse Bradley, base kit Deerstalker once the hatch is closed. I'll do you one better. Base kit Deerstalker all the time, as long as you're within 3 or say 5 meters of the survivor, because I'm tired of sitting there trying to fucking hear the damn survivor, and I can't because I'm deaf in one ear and I can hear the fucker, but I can't find the fucker. And before somebody brings up plot twists, yes, we can have plot twist turn off the base kit Deerstalker, but I think it needs to be in the game completely. Or at least give me Killer Instinct, for fuck's sake. Archangel Michael Hawking, what a fucking name. I love it. I love that name. Most content creators don't understand what casual means. I'm gonna hear you out. In almost all discussions I've watched about the game, there's a lack of understanding how casual a casual is. Casuals are people who play maybe 1 game a day on average and are very low skilled. Who the fuck is playing 1 game a day on average? 1 hour a day, maybe. 2 hours a day, you know, hour and a half a day. 1 game? Who boots up a live service game for 1 game? What? Brother, uninstall the game at that point. If you're fucking booting up to play 1 game, 1 match, just don't play. I don't... What? Okay, in a game like League of Legends, 60% of the player base are silver or below. League is also like a super complicated game. So balancing the game around only the top end is ridiculous. I don't agree. The game needs to be primarily balanced around the majority of players and the secondarily for the top end. It's okay for characters to be weak at the high end if that keeps them in a balanced state for the low end. In League, this is pub stompers like Master Yi, and for DBD it was characters like Skull Merchant. Not everyone needs to be balanced for comp at the expense of the majority. When has the call for Skull Merchant when has Skull Merchant ever been balanced for comp? I'm super confused at that one. Like, I don't understand why you're bringing up Skull Merchant, because Skull Merchant was 110% change because of the casual audience. Skull Merchant's guillotine that she just got, that got taken to her, like, Skull Merchant's execution was 100% because of casuals. No competitive player, no top tier player, except Scott Jund, was calling for Skull Merchant changes. That just wasn't happening. Like, that just wasn't, I disagreed with you for like most of this, for like a lot of it, but like you bringing up Skull Merchant just completely threw me for a loop, because I have no idea what your point is now. Skull Merchant was changed because of casual players, not high level players. Ever. Mr. Rumble Roses. People always talk about delete X killer, like the whole delete Skull Merchant thing, for example, but if you really want to talk about a killer that needs deleted, I don't. I think deleting killers is fucking stupid, as we saw with Skull Merchant. It's honestly the twins. No, it's not. The twins was more of a mistake than anything. No, they weren't. And I'm not saying that because I simply hate them. Yes, you do. They're nothing more than a slugging type of killer. And even a slog of a killer to play as. Where's Ambrosia? Ambrosia's gonna watch this video and get pissed off. Somebody tell Ambrosia when the video goes live to look at the time code of 50 minutes. Always switching from Charlotte to Victor and back again. That's fun. And I'm sorry, but not sorry to those who play Twins, especially that one person who is the #1 Twins main. Who are we talking about? I can think of 3. Yeah, we're 50 minutes in, Peck. I can think of 3 different #1 Twins mains. Actually, I can think of 4, and one of them is my mod. Like, what do you mean, specially that one person? Why are we being vague here? Why don't you say what you mean, sir? But I'm gonna be completely real with you, man. I think you just don't like the Twins. Saying that switching between Charlotte and Victor and back again is boring is just, what's the word I'm looking for? It is I don't see how you think it's boring to have to macro manage your positioning with two different killers. Like, I just don't. Did you play like have you played Twins? That's actually a good point. Have you actually played Twins, or do you just have like a vague understanding of how they work? Because I feel like you've never given them a good to honest chance. Or maybe I'm wrong, right? Maybe you're just weird. Bogus the Entity says Trickster has one of the best aesthetics out of the roster and is much scarier than people give him credit for due to being flashy and colorful and his gameplay being meh. Also, Oni menu music is the best track in the whole game. I don't listen to menu music, so I don't know about that one, but Trickster does have one of the best aesthetics out of the roster. I agree. Emmett loves Red Velvet. You know what, Emmett? So do I. Here's my 2. I was only counting on 1, so I'm gonna flip a coin, and if it's heads, I'll answer your first one. If it's tails, I'll answer the second one. It's heads. Prestige levels are redundant. The rewards and bloody cosmetics through the neat. Oh, though neat. I can't read. Do not necessarily reflect increase in skill, rather playtime. I don't think anybody has ever thought that they represent skill, except for idiots. I think most people who have played this game for longer than like 20 minutes realize that prestige is only about time invested, not necessarily skill. But I mean, yeah, the prestige levels are kind of dumb because they don't give you anything when they should, and that's one of the biggest problems, is that prestige doesn't give you really much for progression. It doesn't give you anything for progression past P9, which is one of the reasons it's so bad and needs a massive overhaul. Look, it's Dasby. Look, it's the Taspy. It's this dude. It's this friendo. Based by a solo queue survivor here. Oh no. The Go Next epidemic is a combo result of people feeling hopeless, not enjoying a game, and behavior themselves telling pissed off peeps to play something else. Now, if I'm wrong, you are welcome to call me an arrogant asshole and correct me and provide me with proof that I'm wrong. But I am 99% certain that behavior hasn't told people to play a different game in like 7 years. Like since Matthew Cote's comment about Civ 6 or Civ 5 or whatever. Like I'm 99% certain behavior hasn't told you to play a different game in literal years. And I feel like y'all need to let it go. Like, the reason I say that is because like this community has a really bad habit of taking things that behavior did years ago and still holding a grudge about it and still holding it against them. It feels like a really dumb thing to bring up and a kind of unfair to the devs. I think Cote was real for that as well, Psycho. But the Go Next epidemic is a combo result of people feeling hopeless, not enjoying the game. That is not 100% on behavior. That has a lot to do with people rage queuing and playing a game they obviously don't like. I agree. People should play different games if they don't like the game. Instead of queuing up and fucking your teammate over. And like Scott said this in one of his videos, on the Go Next epidemic, and I fully agree with him on this, so I'm just gonna quote him. But what does people feeling hopeless, not enjoying the game, what is that supposed to accomplish as a statement, right? Because at the end of the day, it's a meaningless thing to say. Like, it's the same thing as people who are like, oh, well, people wouldn't go next if behavior would just fix the game. Like, what the fuck do you mean? Like, we saw somebody earlier in this video say that if they go against a trickster, they DC. So, like, but what about people who like trickster? So that's not the reason that that person's going next. Like, think about it this way, right? You've got 3 different people who all go next at some point. One person goes next because they don't like Garden of Joy, right? For whatever reason. The next person goes next because they load it in and it's a trickster. The next person goes next because they've been rage queuing for 5 hours and they're tired of being the first ones found every single game. Which one of these 3 people do we quote unquote fix the game for, and how do we fix the game for those people? Like, it's just a meaningless, it's just a meaningless thing to say, right? Like, yes, obviously the game has its flaws. Obviously it has things that it needs to fix. But like I said way earlier in this video, the Go Next epidemic is the result of the community normalizing ruining the experience of other people for their own selfish needs. This is the only gaming community where fucking your teammates is normalized. And that's the reason the Go Next epidemic is so bad. Yeah, there's some shit that sucks about the game, but I agree, go play something else. But you saying that part of the reason people are going next is because behavior is telling people to play something else, these people obviously aren't playing something else if they're constantly going next. They're playing Dead by Daylight. They're not playing anything else. They're playing the same game that they can't stand over and over and over again, and that's what's causing them to constantly rage quit, because they won't take a fucking walk or something. Ambient Man, hey, I haven't seen you in a while, my dude. I hope you've been doing well. This used to be one of the people that commented like on every video. My DBD hot take is that the nurse is not the best killer anymore. You're wrong. A good blighter hillbilly is more deadly than a good nurse. No, they are not. And also, Ghostface is now the 2nd worst killer in the game. 3rd worst. Because Skull Merchant and Trapper are still worse than Ghostface. But, I'm gonna explain this for what feels like the 100th time. The nurse is the only killer in the game that can negate all distance that the survivors make mathematically. What that means is that if the Blight or Hillbilly land a hit on you, for the purposes of this explanation, let's assume the Hillbilly landed a mallet on you, right? And you take off running, right? Let's say you're on Garden of Joy in main building. Blight or Hillbilly hit you. You vault the God window on the lower level, you take off to the right, and you find a place to go. Both Blight and Hillbilly have to wait for their power to go off cooldown, vault the window, figure out where you went, and use their power to try to catch up to you and hope that you don't make it to Shack or to that really powerful loop that spawns in front of that window or something like that. Whereas Nurse, she goes, blinks, she hits you, you vault the God window, she goes, oh, and she wiggles back and forth. She's up in 2.6 milliseconds. She charges her blinks through 14 walls, and is on your ass again before you can even think about trying to make it to a better loop. Nurse mathematically negates all distance you make, not just because of her fast recharge time, but because she can go through obstacles. So you cannot, the simplest thing to say is that Billy and Blight still have to play tiles. Nurse does not. And as long as that is the case, Nurse will never be dethroned. She can't be dethroned. Also, Nurse isn't punished for her mistakes. If she misses a swing, she's got an even better chance at negating your distance. But if Blight or Hillbilly miss a swing, and you make it to a God pallet, or you make it to a good pallet or a good window, they've got to play around that shit. Nurse don't give a fuck. Nurse do whatever the fuck she wants. Honey Badger style. Wildfire, hot take, bring Pyramid Head cake back. I feel like some of you don't take me serious. I'm kidding. Sure. Rye Guy says, I think licensed killers fun factor should be a little bit more high priority than the original killers, because licensed killers are usually what brings new players to the game. What happened to Freddy should never happen again. I kind of agree, but I agree in a different way. I think that licensed killers adaptability should be number one. You should feel like you are playing the licensed killer, not like you are playing someone cosplaying as the licensed killer. And that was Freddy's whole problem. New Freddy feels like you're playing Freddy fucking Krueger. Old Freddy felt like you were playing Dante, the kid who watched Nightmare on Elm Street one too many times and tied some butter knives to his hand. You see the difference? That's what should be, when they're making a licensed killer, it should feel like that licensed killer. And for the most part, they do pretty well. Myers feels like Myers. Bubba feels like Bubba. I don't know about Pig. I don't know about Sadako because I'm not familiar with those franchises. Pinhead feels like Pinhead. Pyramid Head feels like Pyramid Head. Vecna feels like Vecna. Dracula feels like Dracula. You know what I mean? For the most part, they tend to nail licensed killers in the adaptability fun factor pretty well. Give or take, you know? Psychotic Bear, who's in our chat right now, says undetectable status effect should remove killer footsteps. I don't agree that it should remove killer footsteps, but it should definitely dampen them a little bit. I don't agree on full removal, but dampen, I agree with. Zaza, what a fucking name, says solo queue isn't bad, you're just bad. Wrong. Don't get me wrong, I am bad, and most people are bad, but that's the reason solo queue is bad. Solo queue is for random motherfuckers who have different ideas of how to play the game. And because of that, solo queue will always feel bad. Because everybody has a different idea of what they should be doing at any given time. And when those ideas conflict, they hurt the team. When they synergize, they help the team, right? Like maybe you think that the build shouldn't be on a gen right now, but the build does think they should be on a gen right now, right? So the bill's on the gen, but because the bill's on a gen, you recognize, all right, maybe I need to work with this bill and I need to make decisions to work with them being on that gen. So maybe you take a little aggro, maybe you pull the killer to a different position, you know, stuff like that. But in a different situation where the bill thinks that they should be on the gen right now and you think they shouldn't be on the gen right now, and so you do something like lead the killer to them, maybe not intentionally, but you get what I'm saying, that's when solo queue becomes horrible, because their decision, the bill's decision and your decision are conflicting with each other, right? It's when in solo queue, you win based off who has the most accidental synergy, which is why when people like me are trying to coach solo queue players, we try to teach you more about paying attention to what your team is doing rather than what you should be doing in any given moment, if that makes sense. Hanzo JB says, I have a lot of hot takes, but I'll limit it to 3. I only wanted 1, so I'm gonna roll a D4. 2. The game isn't killer survivor sided. I agree. Each side has their own set of busted combinations. I agree. If you only play one side, it may seem like the game is in favor of the opposing faction, but in reality, it's not. I agree. Delilah, hello, my darling. Map offerings should flat out be removed from the game. I agree. They're awful, and with the current state of maps, cough, cough, Badham, Erie, Ormond, Auto Heavy, McMillan, etc., cough, cough, forcing everyone in the lobby to go a specific map because one person wanted to is unhealthy for the game. And this is true even if every single map was balanced. Even if every single map was balanced, this would still be true. Either bring in map vetoes or eat my ass. KMD's, what a name. Dredge is a low A tier killer It's just that 75% of the community doesn't know how to position themselves correctly while playing it, don't care about the remnant, and only judge it based off nightfall and teleportation. So I have not played enough of New Dredge to agree or disagree, but I definitely think Dredge went up into the B tier at the very least. Like middle of B tier at the very least. Masm! DBD should change their schedule to a chapter every 2 months. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. No, no, no. These fucking chapters already release in the worst states you could possibly imagine. No, 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 no. We do not need to rush the devs even more. We already get broken ass fucking chapters. You're out of your goddamn mind. I will read the rest of this because you are a VIP, but anybody else, I would stop there because you are out of your fucking mind if you think rushing the developers is a good idea. They're not a giant corporation, Masm. How big do you think Behavior is, brother? They only have 1,300 employees, my dude. And that's just employees. That's not developers. That's not what a giant corporation is. Blizzard. I think you need to reorient. I think you need to reorient what a giant corporation is. Compare that to Ubisoft, who has 19,000 employees. Like, we need to readjust your definitions here, my dude. Anyway, at this point, I'm kind of tired of hearing people begging for a Behavior to skip a chapter and do a game health chapter because I know damn well people will be bored as fuck and leave the game by the lack of new character or characters. They wouldn't if Behavior handles it correctly. If Behavior does a health chapter, but in that health chapter, they do a massive event and like a big sale on characters and cosmetics and stuff like that. If they do it that way, it won't be a problem. I promise. I'm not against health up because also the idea of a health chapter also comes with reworks, right? People are also saying like, hey, in that time period, like majorly rework characters that need it, like Legion, Ghostface, Trapper, you know, etc. I'm not against health updates, but it doesn't have to be a complete reimagining of the game. Oh, it 100% does. This game is built off of fucking Prit Sticks and fairy dust, dog. And to be honest, DBD has extremely repetitive gameplay loop. I don't think that's a hot take. That's been the same for years, and that is barely broken up by a new chapter. So I think a month off that development time is something I'm sure a massive company. Again, we need to revalue. We need to reassess your definition of a massive company. Can handle and make the game less dull or have massive content droughts like it's been having for years now. I wouldn't. It hasn't had content droughts. What? They release a new chapter every 3 months. I'm telling you, every 2 months is just going to lead to shit being more broken. Like, yeah, they work on stuff typically a year in advance, but if you shorten their development time, there has already been times where the developers have released stuff that felt incomplete, and it's because they didn't have enough time. Because think about it, they start working on stuff a year in advance, but they don't work on that thing a year until its release, right? Like they don't say, okay, it's January 3rd, we're going to be releasing the new killer January 3rd of next year. They don't work on it from January 3rd to January 3rd. They work on it from January 3rd to like maybe October or something like that. Like they because then they have to starting on the next things, right? Like, yeah, like that's, I think you got it mixed up in your head about how the development cycle works. And truly not just more chapters, but less resources, non-stop cosmetics, and put it toward interesting gameplay. Like imagine them randomly adding new items or perks during mid-chapter patches or mini updates that aren't linked to characters. In order for them to do that, they need to rebuild the game from the ground up. I'm not gonna lie to you. Disappointment? Hey, that was my dad's nickname for me. Cha-chow. I find... I'm just kidding, my dad loved me. I find Night very fun to verse because being chased by 2 killers is chaotic and fun. I agree. Guards aren't a problem to me either. I agree. Oh, you have multiple stuff in here. Yeah, we're just gonna stick with the first one. Some dude in a box. RPD is basically one giant main building. I agree. Sunlight Cove. I think Twins is the most balanced and functional killer in the game. I think you should suck my nuts. Bot Whisperer. For every few hours you play one role in DBD, you should be forced to play the other for at least 1 hour. No. Oh my god. Do you know how many people would quit this fucking game? Do you know how many people would quit? Dude, I hate playing Survivor. If I had to be forced to play Survivor for every few hours I played Killer, I would uninstall this game tomorrow. I go weeks without touching Survivor. Well, that is an awful idea. This way people can build an understanding of how both sides of the game work. So while I agree that more people need an understanding of how both sides work, I don't think that would solve as much problems as people think it would. Because if you watch like Spook and Jukes, right, or old Aaron Duke videos, my boy Aaron, I love him so much. I hope he's doing well. You'll notice that there are a lot of people, while they're like being toxic and shit, will be like, yeah, when I play that role, I don't do any of that. Right? Like, how many times have you seen a Survivor bitching about tunneling or whatever? And they're like, when I play Killer, I never tunnel. So I don't understand why these brain dead piece of shit dudes have to tunnel all the time. Like, it does not solve the problems you think it does. It really doesn't. I agree people should play both sides, but I have long since gotten past the idea that that would solve any kind of toxicity. I guarantee you. Weskin Time, Asval 67989 says Blight is better than Nurse. Nope. I explained this back in Ambience. No, he is not. He cannot be more lethal than a max skill ceiling Nurse, because Blight as who was it? Guardian. I think Guardian put it this way. Somebody put it this way. As they put it, Blight has to play tiles. The Nurse does not. And finally, the final hot take of this video, Sigmarite says Deathslinger is one of, if not the most skill expressive killer there is. Will not say that he's the most skill expressive. Certified Kaiser TM. Oh, it's War. Fuck you, War. Not the most skill expressive, but if I were to put him in a like a ranking, I'd say top 10 most skill expressives in the game. Sure, absolutely. 100%. And that is all the comments that we have for our hot takes video, our return video. I appreciate you guys so much for giving me the opportunity to come back and make videos for you guys. Thank you for everybody who commented. If you're watching this on the YouTube, let me know down below which hot takes you agreed with, which ones you disagreed with, and also let me know how your fucking day was and possibly your favorite cat. I'd love to hear it. Other than that, a big special thank you to my channel members listed on screen now. If you want to find out how to become a channel member today, get awesome perks like seeing videos early, merch discount codes, and more, then please click that join button down below. I love you guys so much, and I will see you in the next one.